to a dragon. For all those, not excluding myself, who have, and perhaps even are, a dragon. Grand, scaling, towering, heinous beast, oh, what fury is in thy breast! I plead thee away hastily, take thine fires in flight. I'd be dead if thee stayed with me, with thy murderous light. Together we've spoiled my dominion, broken God and man's sacred union. That now makes thee mine ill champion, which maketh me startle at thee, O dreaded fiery companion, seemingly immortal. I know always life thou seekest theft, but what else, ill beast, thou art indeed death. Satisfied with never a thing to leave, is thou daily request. In God's blessings thou art damned if I believe. Alas, thou take my best. Thine grand home, wherever it be too small, for thine dark wings spread the fruit of mine fall. Yet what have I to build a house, O hell? My heart be the only thing, for wherein or what would thee rather dwell, and keep thy frame growing? Are not the fields white for harvesting? Why then stay with a young man in spring? Thou hast deceived me with thine sweet youth, mine fault taking thee in. What wretch! I see now the cruel truth. Thou nigh art now mine sin. Yea, I know from whence thee hast come. I have heard of thine devilish fame. Shan't I cast thee out for thine trouble? But thine house and thine home, although thou shalt soon make me rubble, is yet mine heart, mine own. But dragon, I wish we were apart. I fear that all mine future thou art. The worst laid things of dragons and men be often not so shy. These leave us nothing but grief and pain, and bring hell ever nigh. Oh, thou art cursed, ever deceiving me. The present is the only care of thee. If only backward I would remember my hero's cross, bringing grace near, then forward I gaze, yea, past thine embers. By God's grace, no guessing, nor fear. Of Dragons and Men felt like an appropriate title for my most recent book. After all, we dialogue on such things all throughout in every tale. Death, sorrow, pain, all symptoms of the relationship between men and dragons, between men and sin. However, the title is without a doubt a reminder of another book, written long before this one, of Mice and Men, which covers other themes we men wrestle with. Yet even that story was named after a line in the famous 1785 Robert Burns poem, To a Mouse. This poem is merely an after-poem of the one Burns penned over 200 years ago. I matched the rhyming pattern and borrowed the concept of each stanza, only with a clear content change. For Burns's poem was one of pity for a lesser thing, and envy for its simplicity. Yet mine is one of dread for a greater thing, and horror for its seeming immortality. Indeed, as the tale goes, Burns's poem was written after he had disturbed the home of a lowly mouse. How fitting is it to borrow that poem's heart, yet translate it into the theme of the book's foremost title, The Insatiable Appetites of Dragons and Men, where a young man disturbs the home of an unborn dragon. Thus, this is a companion poem to that story. For while Burns contemplated that poor mouse's fate, you and I know well to what end our dragon will bring us. Alas, this poem is truly one opposite to the simple innocence and congeniality put forth in Burns's To a Mouse. To a Dragon is a rather different plea. Sin. Sin is a great and undefeatable dragon, and its very end, its fruit and child, is a great and undefeatable enemy called death. The two are intertwined, for death cannot exist without sin. Indeed, Scripture teaches us sin begot death. But Christ is the dragon slayer. When he came, he did what no man before or after him, that includes you and I, could do. When we say Christ lived a sinless life, we often don't ponder the depth of what that means. When he was confronted with the opportunity to lie, he spoke truth every time. When he was confronted with the opportunity to manipulate a loved one in order to satisfy some perceived need, he chose the selfless path, esteeming the other, whomever it was, higher than himself. When he could have slew countless, he saved countless. When he could have cursed, he blessed. He could have picked up that stone and cast it at the adulterous woman again and again and again. He could have shunned the lepers and drove them away with a righteous zeal to preserve his purity. But he did not. He bore their shame on the cross and healed them of their diseases. You and I, we are the harlot and the leper. And yet Christ, the perfect and most beautiful man, while he did not commit our sin, became our sin. He hung on the cross like a sinner deserves, and he did it to slay a dragon, to nail our sin to a cross, to die, so that we could share in his glory, his beauty, so that he can and will and does present us blameless and spotless, a beautiful bride. Sin was defeated, and its power killed upon the cross of Christ. But death still lives on, and we live in his shadow. Yet one day, when the trumpet sounds and the Lord descends from heaven with a shout of victory, death will be defeated. Alas, while we live in the shadow of death, we do not fear, for we know death's end, and we know ours. So I felt it a needful thing to include this short poem in my new anthology, a book called Of Dragons and Men. To further contemplate the undesirable nature of sin, and yet its irresistibility. And I have learned that even if dead and crucified, men still plant sin seeds and nurture them, hoping to raise it from the dead. Men forgiven even entertain dragons. Men who profess to be humble farmers and fishermen turn out to be dragons themselves who tear at flesh and consume joy. But I would argue, a man who wishes his sin weren't dead, who wishes his sin weren't nailed to the cross and put on Christ, that man's sin never was dead, never was put on Christ. Alas, such a man deceives himself and is miserable in all fronts. He is miserable, for he thinks he is a Christian, yet he loves his sin. Alas, he is a sinner and hates Christ, but knows it not. I should think such men are to be pitied above all. These are the many painful contemplations I have of dragons and men, yet I dare not ponder a world wherein my dragon slayer does not live. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Revelation chapter 12, verse 9. You just listened to an excerpt from my new book of Dragons and Men, a Christian anthology on the topics of sin and suffering. The full book is now available for purchase on Amazon and at patreon.com. Links are in the description.